What's good, guys? Ben here. I'm about to start my senior quest. I chose to make comics and cartoons. I think that I truly want to be able to express myself using kind of an artistic medium, which is something that I haven't really done before. So first of all, I want to improve my artistic skills. Second of all, I want a medium where I can really express my thoughts and my feelings. I want to make it humorous as best I can. It might not work out, but I'm hoping that I can make it at least somewhat funny. And I'm also looking to see if I can, make a recurring bit or have some recurring comics and themes. So that's really what I'm looking for in the senior project. I don't really know where it's going to take me, but I'm hoping for the best.
Originally printed in newspapers in the 30s, Sunday funnies and comic strips were really made popular in the 1950s and 60s, at a time when America was looking for stability after the chaos of the wars. The comic strips of the 50s and early 60s exhibited the inoffensiveness and campy humor that the era needed. When I began my senior quest, I didn't know that there were any other styles of comics, so naturally I tried to emulate this style.
So I just finished my first comic. It was quite the operation. I didn't realize how long it would take. I knew it was going to be complicated and it was going to be complex, but I didn't realize how hard it is to come up with an idea and illustrating, the coloring, the drawing. It's just pretty interesting. Like, I was, I guess, able to finally create something that was like artistic because usually in my life I'm not really that much of an artistic person.
After drawing a few comics, I was kind of dissatisfied. The humor in my comics was tongue in cheek, gimmicky, and I really felt like I wasn't able to express myself the way I wanted to. As I did more research, I began to discover how the content of comics developed over time.
What's good, guys? I just finished my third comic, and I don't really know. I don't really want to kind of do this style of comics anymore. It seems just kind of vapid, superficial, and I'm looking for something more. You know what I'm saying? These are like fine for just like jokes and stuff, but I'm not really getting that much out of it anymore. I think I'm gonna do some research on, I guess how, 'cause I don't think comics are this way anymore. So I think I'm gonna look up kind of how the style of comics have changed, see if I can do any work, see how I can switch up my style, and hopefully I'll have a much more refreshing outlook on comics after I'm done researching.
By the late 60s and early 70s, comics began to have political undertones. Doonesbury, a long running politically based comic strip, best exemplifies these political displays. The rebellious, independent spirit of this era is once again reflected by people's taste in comics.
What's good, guys? Ben back at it. After researching kind of how the styles of cartoons and comics have changed over time, I saw that basically after the 60s and 70s became a lot more political. Cartoons and comics especially became a lot more political. So I think what I think is a good idea for a comic. I'm gonna draw Trump looking into a mirror, and he sees Kim Jong Un, and he starts like criticizing Kim Jong Un for like kind of censorship of media and stuff. But it's in a mirror, so it's like kind of reflecting on Trump himself. So I'll see how that idea turns out. I hope it turns out well. I think it'll be a good idea, but we'll see. And it's interesting how kind of style has evolved.
I sketched some comics that matched the political undertones of the time period, and I switched up my art style a bit as well. I no longer used color, it seemed amateur to me the way I colored it in, and I experimented with a more simplistic style. A lot of newspapers and magazines still use this style in their comics. The New York Times has large sections of their newspapers and website devoted to this, as well as Fox News, BBC, and other large news distributors.
I also love being able to express my own political views using such an unorthodox medium. Political cartoons provide a great outlet for anyone looking to make their own statement, and some political cartoonists even become political commentators for news organizations. I wasn't even aware of this before starting the senior quest.
By the late 80s to the present, comic strips became more self aware and more satirical. Pearls Before Swine and the Boondocks are great examples of this. The humor turned more subtle, and the comics established some sort of continuity throughout the series. This is mostly due to the fact that these comics can now be accessed via the internet, so people can kind of binge read them. As the medium has changed, so has the content. The cynicism developed in the modern age is now being reflected in comics. I sketched a couple of comics which kind of reflect the tone of modern comics. They find a middle ground between the intense politically charged comics of the 70s and the more fun-loving, vapid comics of the 50s.
Yeah, what's good, guys? Ben here. I just think I had a great idea for a comic. Kind of comes from what I see as an obsession with our phones. I think us as a whole, not just like our generation, but everyone who has a cell phone, spends so much time on their cell phones that I think we're starting to kind of like almost lose touch with reality. So I was thinking that maybe I could make a comic where people almost turn into the apps that they use on their phones most, and it would kind of have a comedic effect, but it would also kind of be, I guess, like it would represent some of my beliefs about technology, how we become almost too engulfed in technology, and how it almost makes us lose contact with reality. So I'm hoping that this idea will work. I just came up with it, so kind of interested to see where it goes, and yeah, let's do it.
In terms of networking, I contacted multiple comic artists and cartoonists over email and social networks. Many of the most famous comic artists are either dead or too old to maintain an active dialogue with fans, so I was severely limited in my range. This led me to reach out to more political cartoonists. I tried finding local artists to reach out to, but I didn't have much luck. I thought it was over. I thought the networking wasn't going to work and that it was all for nothing. I was doubting myself, the project, and I began to feel hopeless when I didn't get a reply back. I was really, really frustrated. Finally, as I'm sketching one of my comics, I get an email back from a cartoonist from the Wisconsin State Journal in Madison, Wisconsin, named Phil Hands. I was shocked that I got a reply and instantly became rejuvenated. Phil Hands is a generally centrist political cartoonist who focuses mostly on American politics. In his email, he told me to continue practice sketching and drawing during my free time and made it clear that a cartoonist should always have a clear idea in mind before they start drawing their actual cartoon. He also offered to take a look at some of my sketches. It was very general advice, but I took it to heart. I also plan to send him a sketch in the future for his advice on it. Side note, Phil Hands' website can be found at www.host.madison.com/wsj/opinion/cartoon. It felt great to get a reply, especially from someone as experienced as Mr. Hands.